Lim, cardiologist with SSM Health, SLU Hospital, and SLU Care. Good morning.
Good morning.
We were talking about ticks last week with the Department of Conservation here about how to avoid getting ticks. But once you do get ticks, you could get a disease.
Yeah.
What happens then?
Well, so I wish it were possible to avoid ticks from what I've seen in kids that go on hikes and float trips and camping, and,
Right.
and guys are hanging out sort of in our great state of Missouri. Ticks are prevalent. And so getting bit by a tick, I think the common thing that people think about is, wow, you get Lyme disease. Which is not really a good disease to get. It's an infection that seems to have a chronic nature to it that will continue to get you and nag you for a long time. But in Missouri, Lyme disease isn't that prominent. Lyme disease is more prominent a little bit farther north. But there are diseases we can get.
I wonder why that is.
It just depends. So the tick is the host for the infection.
Oh, okay.
And so the tick gets the infection from other animals. And so Lyme disease, I think, comes from specific herds of deer. Or specific type of deer.
So the ticks down here usually aren't carrying the Lyme disease.
Right, but they carry other things.
Right,
So
yeah.
ehrlichiosis, tularemia, a great infection from my standpoint called the bourbon virus, which would sound like a really good thing, but I don't
I have the
think
bourbon
it's actually,
virus and I wasn't bit by a tick.
but I don't think it's that. Those things are prevalent, and so I think the issues are this. When we go out into the woods or hike or float or that type of thing, we need to make sure that we investigate to make sure that we're not carrying tick. They tend to hang around the head and the neck and kind of around the hair regions. They can get into the underarms and the hair regions under the arms, as well as in the groin and the waist.
Right.
And so kind of and they a lot of times are up against sort of like the elastic bands of maybe your undergarments and that type of thing. So you gotta look really carefully. And part of the deal with respect to this passivage infection is even if you get bit, if you remove the tick as soon as possible, that decreases the likelihood that these can transmit their illnesses to the human body. So finding them as soon as possible and removing them is very important. Then the problem becomes if you don't remove them quick, or you start to get all of the vague symptoms that are seemingly possible for any disease known to mankind.
Right.
Meaning you're just kind of tired, maybe got a little headache, or maybe got a lot of headache, and just don't feel good. But there's nothing absolutely specific. Those types of symptoms are sort of the hallmark symptoms of these diseases we talked about, like ehrlichiosis or tularemia. And so you want to go see your doctor, and you want to make sure you tell them that you were out in our beautiful country and got bit by a tick, so that you can start focusing their attention on these infections.
What about the medicines to fix it? Are these easily treatable?
Some are. Ehrlichiosis, tularemia, these are bacterial infections. They can be treated with antibiotics. The issue with Lyme disease is treatable. The best treatment for it is the earliest we can diagnose it. So if we let this linger too long, that's when we run into the worst cases. And so being aware that ticks are prevalent and prominent in our region, and being careful with respect to inspecting ourselves, our loved ones, our kids, our dogs, cats,
Right.
make sure they don't have them. And if we have those bites, making sure that just a little bit of fatigue or not feeling well, we're not going to blow that off. We need to actually get seen and make sure we don't have one of those things.
Last week when we were talking about with Dan Zarlinga about ticks, he was saying, take the tweezers and pull them off. Well, I got a lot of text messages saying people putting Vaseline on the tick and having it fall off naturally. Do you prefer one way or the other?
I think whatever old wives' tale goes around with respect to how you get the tick out is totally fine. I think the deal is you want to be able to pull it out completely, right? So sometimes the head separates out, and that's not a good idea.
Right. So sometimes you get bit by a tick and nothing happens, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the time you'll get bit by a tick and you will not get one of these infections. Right. Not every tick carries a bacteria or a virus.
Right.
So most of the time, it's just annoyance. It's kind of like getting bit by a mosquito, and of course, there's mosquito-borne illnesses too, where you can get. So, you get annoyed. Might get a little rash, and it itches, and that type of thing. That's most of the time when you're going to get bit by a tick. But we just want to be protective in terms of the rare instance, what it might turn into more than that.
What about that Rocky Mountain spotted fever? You get that from ticks too.
That's also tick-borne illness as well.
And again, nothing to worry about. Just make sure you get treated by it.
I think they all fall into the same category. Right? Be careful, be aware.
Yeah.
And enjoy. I don't know about the next few days. It's 98, 99 degrees, but enjoy the outside and be active.
What about that bourbon disease?
That bourbon disease sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's the way to do it.
Sit by the pool and have a nice little glass with a couple ice cubes in it.
Are there some years that are worse than others for tick diseases?
I think actually in general, the CDC and the different state health departments have noted a slight uptick in tick-borne carrying of these types of infections, but not necessarily major ebbs and flows in terms of sort of the epidemic type variety.
Where's your bow tie today?
The bow tie is at home. We did a bow tie. Let's see, on Saturday and Monday. We do a tie yesterday and today.
Mix it up a little bit.
Got to have variety. Right?
Yes, variety is the spice of life.
There you go.
A good doctor told me once. Dr. Michael Lim, cardiologist with SLU Health and SLU Care. Thank you, sir.